So, I've started the Junk Journal January challenge run by Meg Journals, and I thought I'd make it easy on myself this year and just repurpose an old book, sticking together some of the thin pages and removing others. And top tip for an ADHDer, do count your pages. So I then covered the book, starting with the base of an old music sheet of paper, and went from there. The next step was covering the music paper with some basic Amazon packaging. I liked the barcode there and the corrugated cardboard, and I wanted to keep some different textures, and here are some of the things that I had dug out and cut out, some fussy cutting of a flower and various different old pieces of packaging and grungy materials. And then I like the playing part, I guess, in terms of laying it out and just seeing where things go and what looks best. I start with sort of playing in my head, almost my mind's eye, of what I want to include, and really, and then play with the actual physical pieces until I'm ready to stick them down. The next part was playing with various pieces and sticking them down and cutting little bits off or tearing little pieces off that were covering up some of the underlying layers. I also then used this little stamp pad to create the journal cover, but I ended up putting, or the title of it, and I ended up putting July because I had last year's Junk Journal July in front of me. So I did it again to Junk Journal January. So again, keep an eye on what you're doing. This is the packaging I used, and I love this type of sticking tape that has a thread through it. It's got such great texture, and again, all free and perfect for junk journaling. So, as always, I then go to grunge up around the edges, vintage style, make it look worn and old. And I use what is it for that? The ink, Distress ink, not Distress oxide, because my understanding is the Distress ink isn't water soluble, I don't think, whereas the oxide, if it gets water, then kind of spreads and changes. But this I only use just for edges, really, and I use it a lot, basically. And that's the archival permanent ink that I use with the letters. So then it's just a case of putting it on the front and finding the position, and an ink stick, a glue stick is perfect for this. For some of the different materials, etc., I use a fabric glue, but this particular ink stick, I've said it again, this particular glue stick is perfect for paper if it's not too heavy and doesn't require an awful lot of sticking down in terms of the weight of it. So again, I've kept all the different textures as visible as I possibly can, and then I just go in and firm up the edges where I've left them open in order to still add various pieces. So now it's time for the back cover, and I'm using more textures in terms of textiles, materials now, with some old tea-stained cotton or linen. I think it also has some stains of metal there that my friend Crispy did for me, and I'm adding in various different types of textures, softer material and paper, which again I've made grungy, and contrasting that with a delicate, well, firstly the delicate material, but also the little fussy cut flower. So I suppose I'm just aiming for something that looks soft and delicate in these muted vintage tones and matches the front. Again, this is my favourite part, just really setting things out, playing with their positioning, just doing it by eye, really, seeing what I enjoy before actually then sticking it down. And when I come to stick it down, it often changes. That piece didn't go in, for example, but I wanted to keep some of that, I think that's tracing type, or greaseproof kitchen type paper, wrapping paper, that I had tea stained and crunched up for texture, along with the craft type papers with pictures on. So this is the finished cover, and I added a little bit of lace ribbon there on the spine, and I was pleased with the outcome. That I think the two covers, the back and the front, went together. I've kept all the different textures, and within this sort of muted vintage palette that I tend to love. And there's some words there that I chose from this pack. So the adventure begins. I put it on the back because it seems actually quite appropriate there, because the adventure goes on. And there's the cover. So I hope you enjoyed a little glimpse behind the scenes in terms of how I made this junk journal cover, and if you did, I hope you'll join me as I return with some of the pages that I make later in the challenge.